consider, if you will, the story of Hangman Adam Page, the son of a tobacco farmer who, in his youth, worked alongside immigrants, and in doing so, learned the value of hard work and respect for his fellow man. You have just entered the wrestling and abolish Ice Zone. Dun dun dun! I'm John Renton with my review of AEW All in Texas 2025 from Globe Life Field in the shadow of Dallas, Texas itself, Arlington, Texas. And oh boy do I have thoughts. I am putting up this review hours after the show ended and hours after other content creators have put up their videos because I had to work. I worked 9 hours and then I watched 0 hour before WWE Saturday Night's main event show that, well, was remarkably disappointing. People were like, oh, this is so much better than Saturday Night's main event. Yeah, that was a TV special. This is a big stadium show that was promoted and had some matches that people were looking forward to. I'll get my thoughts on the matches that I was looking forward to and what I actually thought of the finished product. But I will say that there were some incredible highs, and that crowd stuck with the whole goddamn thing. I mean, outside of being a little bit down after a particular announcement, which I don't blame them, but the crowd energy was fucking infectious. But I'm just going to say once again, abolish ICE. If you guys have a problem with this message, you get out there and work those jobs. That those people who just want to come over from other countries, wherever, and just work hard and take care of their families, grow their, just have their own personal growth and work hard and achieve the American dream. You know, the American dream that we all kind of get fat and happy on. And some of us get really lazy about it and everything. So maybe we all should try to respect people, regardless of their skin tone. Just disrespect people that voted for the goddamn orange piece of shit that's populating and plaguing the fucking White House. And if any of you MAGA fucks are still watching this, I don't care. I will offend you guys until the day I drop, which is going to be a long goddamn time. There is 7 hours of wrestling to talk about, and I have a whole bunch of stuff to dive into. So, I did, again, watch the 0 hour before Saturday Night's main event. So I will say that, look, they at least had an enthusiastic crowd there eventually by the time the 0 hour was almost done. The panel was Renee, Jeff Jarrett. Remember when Jeff Jarrett was going to have one last round for the world title and that just totally got given up? That's a shame. Paul White's there. RJ City's there. And they had a graphic and like a Toxic Avenger style graphic and descriptions of the Texas Deathmatch rules. So anyway, Madison Rayne, she brought her bangs over. That's nice. Her bangs allowed her to talk. Not very well, but whatever. Josh Matthews appeared on camera. Apparently they are still a happy couple, meaning she hasn't learned shit. So why is Alex Marvez still there? I mean, genuine question. Like, why is Marvez still there? Okay, so I have a question about Shane Taylor. Is he just Stokely in a meat suit? Because literally he can run around a little bit and do a couple decent power moves, but I do not see it with Shane Taylor. I just don't. And he had the entire mobile infantry unit, or whatever they're called there. Anthony Ogogo was there. Apparently, he's still around. I mean, I got nothing against the guy, but I know he's had eye surgeries and he's had stuff to, like, fix problems from his boxing career, or maybe genetic stuff, or whatever it was. But goddamn, I don't know if he should be out there getting physical. I don't know if he should be getting physical. So it was nice that Kevin Von Erich got to be out there in front of a big stadium crowd in Texas, much like the crowds for the 1987 and 1988 Parade of Champions shows. If you know anything about those shows, oh boy, that's what the crowd for this first match looked like. Now, they got to 26,000, which is around the same amount of people for the 1985 one. You know, the one that wasn't quite as good as the 1984 one, because you can only do one of those shows that capture the magic once. But don't worry, Dustin and Sammy were there, along with Marshall and Ross, and Kevin was there in the corner, and Fritz was watching from down below, because Fritz Von Erich is down there in fucking hell. Heaven needed a champion, and Heaven needed a better booker for this pre-show. Look, it was what it was. It was just going to make people... It was going to pop people. And Kevin got to do the claw at one point. Ooh, that claw. And everybody got to do the claw. And there you are. By the way, Wyatt and Wayne Rhodes, who apparently are training with Dustin, showed up to defend Kevin. Why didn't they get any of his brothers? Oh, that's why. That's why they didn't. It was shocking to see them there, much like it was shocking for Jack Jr. to step over the tongue of that trailer. Oh yeah, I've got Von Erich jokes, and I don't really care about that. I'm going to get a lot of Von Erich jokes in this review. But that was fine. Kevin clawed a go-go. I guess he didn't think he was one of the good ones. And yeah, everybody claws everybody. And the face team won. Well, I don't really know if Sammy counts as the face, but whatever. Adam Cole's not medically cleared. More on that later. There was a Kellogg's hot dog sign. Brilliant work by that person. The fans pop for the Costco boys, or the Costco family, or whatever the fuck they're called. Big Boom AJ, his son that apparently is growing by leaps and bounds, and his other son is growing out by leaps and bounds. Nigel's commentary got a little bit grating just because it was like, okay, there are funny jokes, and then it was turning into Jerry Lawler making midget jokes and making jokes about puppies. I do not get it with these guys. They are not for me. But they seem like a nice family. Whatever. It was Hologram, Tomohiro Ishii, Kyle O'Reilly, and Big Boom AJ against the Callis family, Archer, Rocky Romero, Chia and Trent. Is Trent legally allowed to be around children? I mean, he's a Jordan Peterson subscriber and a right-wing crackpot, so I have no problem saying this about Trent. I mean, he showed up in his mom's van, and then he's expected to be taken seriously as a badass. A guy that has a neck that's hanging on by about a fucking thread like that. Look, the kids were there. One of the kids got involved and spared Trent for what he's worth. I would have personally, considering what they ended up doing with Dustin, or not with Dustin, considering what they ended up doing, I would have actually, with the four-way match for the TNT Championship, I would have found some way to maybe not just have Trent, not involved in it, do something else, just because Trent, I'm sorry, I do not think is beneficial to any wrestling company. Regardless of political opinions, the guy has spent more time on the goddamn bench, and he took a spear and he slapped kids around, or pushed kids around. Anyway, so, yeah, there you go. Nigel said, it's killing the business. Nigel, known for respecting the business with his commentary that can go over the top sometimes. Powerbomb to Rocky. They couldn't even pin Trent. They should have pinned Trent. FTR and the Outrunners and Newport gear. Really, it's like a pack of Newports. It wasn't as good as the Collision 100 match, which was really good, by the way. I did not review it, because I watched the show later on, a few days later. But Stokely ended up interfering and a roll-up won it. And then we move on to the main show. So yeah, let's get through some of this stuff as quick as possible. Why did they use Machine Head by Bush as the theme? I think that song came out in 95, 96. So, the stadium looks great, and the crowd was up, and we got the OPPs, yeah, you know me, Joe, Hobbs, and Shibata against Claudio, Yuta, and Gabe Kidd. Wheeler Yuta needs to be put in daycare because it doesn't look like he's a professional wrestler or even out of high school. And Gabe Kidd was born a crackhead. I'm just going to say that. And I really don't care if Gabe Kidd ever gets offended by any of the insults that he has thrown at him, because he decided to knock Mariah May after the shit that she went through because his boys got, targeted and everything. Well, maybe your boys shouldn't have been creeps and freaks, as it were. Stop defending freaks, you crackhead. So, get a haircut chance at Yuta. Scalp him for all I goddamn care. I mean, anything that gets him out of wrestling. I hate Yuta. Yuta is just so pointless. If they gave that amount of television time, the same amount of television time they've given to Garcia, to Hobbs and others, I mean, Wardlow has gotten injured some, but if they gave it to Hobbs, Hobbs would have benefited. So many people would have benefited. But no, they're pushing these twinks, these stupid idiots. The Muscle Buster pinned Wheeler Yuta, a.k.a. Useless, because he is useless. He's a goddamn useless string bean. He deserves to be mocked endlessly because he is really bad for mainstream wrestling. I don't care if he's a nice guy. I don't care if he saves goddamn puppies and kittens from a burning house. He can do that and be seen as a hero. He's not a professional wrestler. And this isn't the last we see of that fucking mop-top string bean doofus, that stick bug. Anyway, Joe then got a chair wrapped around his neck and beaten down and everything, and Gabe Kidd helped, for all that he's able to help. I was going to watch the G1 until I realized that Gabe Kidd was involved, and I go, Gabe Kidd, David Finlay, and other, I don't really want to watch that. Plus, I'm not going to catch it on demand, and nobody really pays much attention to New Japan anymore because they've kind of alienated their fans. Television has alienated the fans by copyright striking all the footage used, or even the GIFs. So what's the point of supporting a company? And look, Joe got stretchered. I know where they're going because they're trying to make it this hot heel group is taking out the people that were trying to, make it an even playing field so Mox can win. The problem is this group has sucked from the very beginning. Speaking of sucking from the very beginning, I will say that the Casino Battle Royal didn't suck from the very beginning, and the concept has grown on me. They have gotten better at it. What did suck was the fact that the beginning was good, and then this thing drug on. And it drug on and on and on, and on and on and on. And the thing don't stop till the beat of dawn. In fact, just give me 1 second, folks. I had to get my list that I wrote of the participants, because I needed a bunch of sheets of paper for this whole damn thing. So, the men's Casino Gauntlet. It started with Mark Briscoe and MJF. And okay, that makes sense. They've been having their back and forth and all that stuff. That makes sense. And then we get, MVP gets on commentary and a little bit later gets a little bit overbearing. And I like MVP. They should have just told him, cool it. Just cool it for a bit. He was putting over MJF, but he was putting him over at one point at the wrong time. Ricochet is number 3. Bandito was number 4 after defending the title against Takeshita. Speaking of which, Takeshita's number 5. Mystico's number 6, and they sung along with Mystico's theme. That was cool. I don't know what the fuck it says, but they were singing along to it. That was cool. Josh Alexander is in at number 7. Remember when Josh Alexander was a big free agent signing? I forgot they signed him. And then, Anthony Bowen shows up at number 8. And, yeah, MVP got a little bit overbearing during the Mystico thing, but it was what it was. Roddy Strong showed up at number 9, and he would stay out there till later. Brody King got a big old pop once again, Abolish ICE. He wore that shirt for the Grand Slam Mexico thing, and people were upset. Oh, it's political. Yeah, because there's a difference between the police that actually are there to uphold the law and a hate group. And that's what ICE is. And I would say that even if I knew any members of ICE who lived in my neighborhood or whatever. And they would be exposed, and they would be, basically harassed for what they're doing because it's not a job, it's a symbolism of hate. They might as well be doing a Nazi salute as far as I'm concerned. Juice Robinson returned, clean-shaven, because Tony was complaining of scuffing. Speaking of scuffing, Kota Ibushi didn't scuff anything or really do anything in this. And the Beast of Monet, as he is being called right now, because that's about the only reason why the Lawyer Mortos is being pushed. He's talented, but really he was losing so goddamn much, and then suddenly he's being featured more. And at number 14, Max Caster. Max Caster is out the best wrestler alive, as he said. This was too long because, I'm sorry, if this had been 25 minutes, it would have been perfect. You know what it was? 35 minutes. I'm sorry, that's too long. I know it's a 14-man Battle Royal style thing technically, but still. There was a Jay Driller on Roddy. MJF then picked the bones, got the victory. Smart move. You could have MJF and Jay Briscoe. I'm so sorry. I would have loved to have seen MJF versus Jay Briscoe. But MJF versus Mark Briscoe, that will be a cool program to have. MJF's not going to get his shot yet. I think he's going to call his shot at All Out, but we're going to see. So, then here comes Adam Cole, baby, unfortunately, to talk about having to go away for a while because he's going to have to vacate the TNT Championship. I have no jokes. I have no nothing. I have noted that Adam Cole has not looked healthy for a while. He didn't look healthy before he injured his ankle. He damn sure didn't look healthy once he came back. And it's been scary. He came back from that concussion, injured his ankle, that kind of stuff. If he has to step away and just never wrestle again, I don't know. If he has to not wrestle for a year, if he has to not wrestle for the rest of his life, his health is most important. He has not looked healthy, and if it's necessary, do it. He's got a great quality of life ahead of him. He can be a producer. He can be on commentary. He can contribute. And for those that are subscribed or watch his Twitch streams, his game streams, shower him with love and appreciation for the stuff that he did in wrestling. But let's appreciate what the man brought. But also, it may be for the best, because it has not been comfortable to watch him wrestle. I just hope he has a great quality of life. He was very emotional. They couldn't get Bobby Fish back because he was doing a Civil War reenactment, considering he was there for the Civil War, so it makes sense as to why he was there. So, now we get the four-way match for the vacant TNT Championship. Kyle Fletcher, the Protostar, versus Daniel Garcia. I know that Daniel Garcia should have just kicked Cole in the dick, but no, he shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have. Great heat, pal. Against Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes. I don't know why you put Sammy in this. You really should just... You got a bunch of other wrestlers there, and Sammy's your best choice. You had Sammy work twice on this show. The crowd was dead, and I don't blame them. Menard was on commentary, so I really, quite frankly, didn't want to listen. I cannot listen to this screeching, freaking nattering ninny. I mean, I just fucking can't. Short people got no reason to live, as Randy Newman once said. So, Dustin ends up pinning Garcia on a roll-up and wins the TNT title. Now, I'm sure that this is just temporary for him to lose it, possibly at Forbidden Door. I have no problem with Dustin winning, but it's a little bit odd. I'm like, you couldn't have just given it to Kyle? Let him have a long run? Anyway, so, now we get to one of the big matches. We get Will Ospreay, who evidently was all about Dragon Sound and is not against the Ninja. Apparently that was an Assassin's Creed thing that they did. I don't think I've ever played an Assassin's Creed game since Black Flag. He got a lot of pyro. Fuck, he got a lot of pyro. And then JoJo shows up to sing Ain't Nobody, Swerve's old theme song that I heard many times in historic Washington Hall. They even had fireflies as a tribute to her late husband, Bray Wyatt. Tragically passing away. Great way to honor his memory. That was cool. That's the kind of stuff I don't mind seeing when it comes to, not even cross-promotion, but just respecting wrestling, even if that wrestler never worked for you. That's nice. So, it had to be a thrill for her, and I can imagine it's very emotional. And Swerve comes out to a pop. And get on the boat, the Bucky boat, as they do this ship thing to the ring, the Founding Fathers and all that stuff. So, between Ospreay's entrance and the bell ringing, it was 14 to 15 minutes. So, what is this match? It is Will Ospreay, the Aerial Ass Sisson, I think that's how you say it, and Swerve Strickland against Matt and Nick Jackson with the stupid referee, Rick Knox, that deserves to be endlessly mocked and heckled by fans until he steps away, because he is really, really bad at what he does. He is a really bad referee. I'm not saying he's a bad person. I mean, he could be an awful person. He could have bodies in his base. I don't think he does. He looks like a body that was found in a basement by the police. But that being said, he's just a terrible referee. But it is a world title shot for Ospreay and Swerve for a year on the line. They lose. They can't challenge for the world title for a year against the EVP status of Matt and Nick. Which maybe, look, it could just be for storyline. It could also be that Tony Khan might have finally grown a set and said, you know what? I'm giving you a new deal, but we're taking the EVP status out. I don't know. So, everybody knows my opinion on the Bucks. Everybody knows my opinion on flippy shit. So, everybody wants to know, what the fuck did I think of this match? Well, I'm gonna goddamn tell you. This is not necessarily my style, and I am all about knocking the Bucks for being birthers and pieces of shit as people, but when it works, it works. I'm not saying that a lot of the Bucks stuff works, but they did great at Strong Style of All 2018, the stuff against Hangman and Omega at Revolution 2020, even a couple of the matches they had against the Lucha Brothers in 2021. Often I think that they just are bullshit artists. And while they can do a few athletic flip-de-dip-de-doo-dah shits, when you see it in small doses, it's okay. When you see it constantly, and you see that they're older and dimmer and less dependable, you can't actually, do anything except see that they're see-through. That's why nobody never gonna believe you. But that being said, I liked this match a lot more than I thought. I mean, a fuck ton more than I thought. We had a lot of dives and a lot of stuff. I wrote down, can they be serious? I will say this, they were a lot more serious than I thought. Now, I'm not saying that they were perfect, but it was what it was. Can someone summon Lee Harvey Oswald to just scare Rick Knox out of the wrestling business? I mean, please. So, it is nothing but high spots and kickouts and mega moves and stuff like that. And then there are spots where they lay around. But you know what? It was 25 minutes. It wasn't 35 to 40 minutes like some of these things. Yes, the entrances actually ended up making it about 40 minutes. But the entrances were kind of, well, okay, 2 of the entrances were cool. The Bucks one was what it was. I mean, the boat could have been on the ground. Still would have been taller than them. But we got dueling styles clashes for 2. We got, we got a lot of kicks. We got a lot of super kicks because it is a super kick party. Swerve then takes the bullet for Ospreay. Kind of fitting considering Tacoma, and that happens a lot. But we get, a TK driver for 2. We got a lot of stuff. We got the EVP trigger for 2. And we got a hidden blade and a stomp tombstone just for 2. But then we got more kickouts. We got more stuff. They were hanging. The crowd was hanging with it. And these guys had it rocking. And eventually a huge house call hidden blade combo. 1, 2, 3. Ospreay and Swerve win. Big pop. Big deal. I'll give them goddamn credit. They did a whole lot better with that than I thought they would. So that was quite the mega event. Oh wait, what do you mean it isn't over? It wasn't exactly the best. It wasn't even the best Bucks match that I've ever seen. I mentioned 2 earlier that were better, but this was still a whole lot better than I thought, and it was the first pretty close to 5-star, depending on your opinion. It was a 5-star for me. For what my ratings are worth, I'm just a fan. So then we get to the Women's Casino Gauntlet. Okay, this was like 10 minutes shorter, so therefore it was a little bit better. Well, it was a little bit better in some spots. We started out with Chris Statlander and Megan Bayne. Megan Bayne needs to lay off the spray tanning. It doesn't do her any good. She looks good. She's powerful. Statlander looks amazing. This was a death by snoo situation going on. But then Willow comes out at number 3. And it sounds like everybody in Arlington had the clap. I'm kidding. I like Willow. Please don't hurt me. And then one of the worst wrestlers that they had signed, Tai Mello Kunte, who just is not good. She's not good. I know she had a layoff because she had a kid. She wasn't that good before she had the kid. So, just Penelope then tries to interfere for what Penelope needs to just be a valet and not ever get in the ring. Even try to take bumps in the ring. I don't know if she's afraid or what, but good God. Penelope gets stopped by Harley, who's in a mask, and God, Harley looks great. I'm glad Harley's back. I really am glad she's back. And then Anna Jay just was pissed at Penelope. I would be too if I had improved myself in stardom and Penelope was still getting more attention on television, which she really hasn't earned. I'm not saying Penelope Ford is a bad person, but it's like I tried to give her a leash, a chance after chance after chance. She's not good. And we get to Tekla, or I keep wanting to call her Thekla, but Tekla, who looks great and is very fired up, and then Julia Hart shows up, and Julia Hart says, I know that this match could end at any time. Fuck you, I'm singing my entrance. And she had extra material in her pants, and Sky Blue apparently gave her the material from her pants, because it was like night and day there. And I'm glad Sky Blue is back, because she had a long wait because of an ankle injury. And then Sky Blue just gets in the ring and just does stuff, and it just I know. And by the way, I skipped over some of the stuff in the men's because they actually had the Gates of Agony and the guns show up. But to be perfectly honest, there was just so many run-ins. That's something that I did forget about. I do apologize for that. But again, I've been up since 4:30 a.m. You'll forgive me if I skip over a few things. But yeah, the guns showed back up, and Gates of Agony, all this stuff. I'm sorry, but endless run-ins. Just eliminate the person for the match. Just do that. Just have them fight off like they always do. Just have them fight off. But, yeah, and then we get a double spider move from Julia and Tekla. I am convinced, by the way, the Queen Aminata is either pissed at Tekla for something she said in the past, and if it's something bad that Tekla said, okay. If it's just Queen Aminata being pissed about, a lack of a push, she's getting television time, and she's being unprofessional. Somebody needs to sit her down and have a talk with her and say, you may be improving, but we signed her. You all got to work together. If you can't, then basically you get rid of the one that's less valuable. Then number 8 is Queen Aminata. Or no, I'm sorry. Number 7 is Queen Aminata. Number 8 was Mina Shirakawa. My God, Mina Shirakawa, what are you like? What she is like is a ball of energy. And then Athena shows up to a big old pop because she's from Texas. Thunder Rosa also making her home in Texas. Got a big pop. And then Slurry is what I wanted to call her. Maybe a cup of her will cure what ails you. And S-Y-U-R-I. I'm not familiar with her. Apparently she worked in Stardom with Mina or was a rival of hers. I don't know. And number 12 was Alex Windsor. So that's Will's significant other, I think. That was certainly an interesting deal. And let's see, what the hell happened? Athena hit the former Eclipse. I believe they call the O-Face. I personally would call it something else. But whatever. She got the victory, so Athena got the title shot. And boy, that had me worried for one of the next matches. But let's get to FTR on commentary. And I don't know who West Side Gun is, and I don't know who the other guy is. Apparently they sing the Hurt Syndicate theme. They sound a lot better in the studio. Whatever the fuck they were trying to do, it wasn't rap, and this proves the West Texas rednecks were right. So, the Syndicate, the Hurt Syndicate that is, along with MVP and MJF, are taking on Jet Speed, that is Jet Knight, as well as Speedball Mike Bailey, and they took on Christian Cage and Nick Wayne, along with Shayna Wayne. My goodness, Shayna Wayne, with respect. What an incredible woman she is. And Kip Sabian, who you can't look tough when you're wearing that shirt. A 3-way match for the AEW tag titles. Look, I want to say this. If this had been 10 minutes, it would have been fine. This was 18 minutes. This was a 7-hour show. Commentary basically just assed off. So they're not going to take it seriously. Why should I? Nick bumped around like a Super Bowl. He tried to do a cutter onto the apron. I hope he's okay. I saw him do some freaking nasty bumps on indie shows that I was able to see him live at. And a great kid. A really great talent. Super nice. His attitude is he wants to learn. I'm so happy he was in the Best Super Junior. Saw a couple of his matches. He was doing really good. But I could imagine that if he ever teamed up with Jet Knight, they could be Nick at Night. Now that everybody stopped watching that, let's move on. We got 2 counts. We got Speedball landing on Lashley's head because of a botch, which I would have been throwing people left and right at that point. But Christian got shoved into FTR, and then we got a bit of a distraction, and then we got a 3 count after a spear. So there you go. And then it looked like Nick Wayne was going to face off like, what are you doing, FTR, and this kind of stuff. And Christian went to leave, and then suddenly Nick hit the kill switch on him. And Shayna was smiling. Shayna should always smile. She's a very good woman. I mean that. Very, very nice. Really happy she was smiling. And then it looked like, oh my God, they're going to give a concerto. Is this a supergroup? Kip Sabian's part of this, and they're doing this. And they wanted to turn on Christian before he turned on them, probably. So, we're going to give him a concerto. And then suddenly, Copeland comes back with the bat, or whatever the hell it was. And he makes his entire entrance with pyro and all that kind of stuff, and eventually, gradually makes his way to save Christian Cage, which, to be fair, they had their blood feud and stuff like that, and I don't blame him for not running down there. But it reminds me of when Rhea did the stomp entrance and all that before saving Bianca, just before, the end of an NXT taping of somewhere. I don't remember what year. I don't remember if that was 2019 or 2020. I'm trying to remember. But he basically spears FTR. He spears Kip. Nick ends up trying to do a battle with a chair and a nail bat, and then Copeland says to Christian Cage, instead of go fuck yourself, go find yourself. Oh, so they're going to team up, probably by All Out. So Mercedes shows up in a big old fancy car. It's a convertible in Dallas. I'm not going to say it, but there you are. So, it certainly was a less dire situation than the funeral procession that David Von Erich had. I mean, that poor guy, he couldn't even gut it out in Japan. Told you I had more Von Erich jokes. And Tony talks about the timeless zone. It's like she was a detective. Not Carmen Sandiego, but it was funny. Why was it funny? I don't know. There are times when Tony Storm's character grates on me a little bit because I think it's a little over the top. But a lot of times, she does some really good stuff. So, let's talk about Timeless Tony Storm versus Mercedes Moné. AEW Women's Championship match. The crowd was super into everything Tony did. There were some cheers for Mercedes, because some people in Dallas are suckers. She can work, she just shouldn't talk. And until she apologizes and stops that text scam thing, I'm going to continue to knock her, because she deserves to be knocked. Because you have enough money, you're overpaid enough, you don't need to do this to your fans. I'm not saying get fan stuff for free, but seriously, anybody that does this, celebrity or minuscule individual, don't do that shit. Actually talk to your fans. So, at one point, Tony was on Luther's shoulders and threw Mercedes off of the goddamn thing, the apron. And then Luther got knocked down. The clown is down, the clown is down, as Rene Goulet would say. Arm focus by Mercedes, and look, I will say this. They worked this match well. There were maybe a few too many kickouts, but we'll talk about that. We got Storm 0 for 2. We got a chicken wing, but Mercedes fought out, and Taz said, well, that works on the streets. They're making the jokes easy for me. Let's just move on. And Tony basically, at one point, having Mercedes in a tombstone, just decides to go downtown on her bank statement. What the fuck is happening? Why is everybody so horny in wrestling? And a 2 count after a moneymaker. And then Tony's nose was bleeding at one point. And then we got, we got some... We got, some good action. We got at one point where Mercedes was attacking a leg, kicking Tony in the goddamn ass. And then we got a flip. We got at one point Tony flipped Mercedes off her back like she was going to do a backbreaker, but then did a cutter. That was incredible. Great shit. And then the statement stayed locked on. The statement stays on, during sex. I kid, of course. And then we got a Storm 0 times 3 for 2. Why? Why not just whatever? And Mercedes had kissed her before that at one point. Why is everybody so horny? A package for 2. An STF. And then a kiss by Tony. And then a Super Storm 0. 1, 2, 3, and Big Pop. There you go. So that's the big thing right there. So let's get on with it. So she checked on Mercedes to make sure she was okay. There's a lot that I'm getting into, so I apologize if I'm going a little bit long on this review, but I got a lot to say. I'm glad that JR is back. I'm glad he beat cancer. I hope he can get his strength back at some point. It's amazing that he is still kicking at all, because he has been through so goddamn much. I'm just so happy. The voice of my childhood, as far as professional wrestling commentary, is still living. I'm just glad he's got a quality of life. Okada got a lot of pyro. JR picks on Callis, who does say, glad to have you back. Callis does. And there is a white guy that sings Kenny Omega's theme, a guy that looks like he should be either singing bluegrass or working at a tattoo shop. I'm not knocking him, I just didn't expect that. And lots of pyro. And it is time for Omega and Okada 5 for the unified title, which is unifying both championships, but then the Continental Classic is still going to be around, and I don't understand why. The crowd popped at the bell. They started slow, and they built up to some spots. Was this as good as their other matches? No, it wasn't going to be. It didn't need to be. There was no way it was possibly going to be. But we then got a DDT on the announcer's table. I don't know why Ibushi showed up to encourage Kenny, because Callis kept interfering, but Ibushi did nothing, because that would require him to use his brain. That doesn't necessarily work. Because he didn't go the same brain surgeon that Shibata did that gave him a new brain, so he was able to function. Heavy chops and a dive onto Okada. Callis then runs like he should. Just show him a freaking, NDA or whatever, and he'll run. Tell him to Scarlet somewhere. He'll run towards that and then get another NDA slapped on him. Okada, kept it slow, but he did shoulder focus. There was a nice superplex by Omega. There was a nice meat whistle dropkick. And there was some good stuff. They were cooking. They were doing good stuff here. There was bitch chants, and we got some nice counters. We got a nice... we got a couple V-triggers. We got another V-trigger for 2. More live rounds. An avalanche full Nelson, which Okada nearly landed on his head and shoulder. Knees and toes, bitch and toes. And a discus lariat after a tombstone. And then we got Callis doing distracting. He pulls out the referee after the one-wing angel. And if I'm skipping over some of these moves, you really should check this shit out. But he basically Omega does everything he can. Now, nobody's kicked out of the one-wing angel besides Ibushi. Okada didn't kick out of it. Callis pulled him away. Or pulled the ref away. Rainmaker for 2. More forearms. Why are we doing forearms at this point, this late in the goddamn match? I don't understand it. And then a lot of gut shots, by the way. That's one thing that Okada was doing. A knee, a gut shot knee, a drop kick, a Rainmaker, after a Cobra Flosion. There you go. A Cobra Flosion, then a Rainmaker. 1, 2, 3. Good stuff. Enjoyed it. And Okada's the unified champion. I would have gone with Omega, but it was what it was. Are we going to run this thing back and have Omega win the unified title? Bitch. I don't know. So, Hangman's old theme is back. The crowd is popping. Commentary mentioned about Hangman growing up and working with immigrants and learning the value and respect of value of hard work and the respect of his fellow man. Once again, abolish ICE if you don't like it too bad. So, this crowd is stuck with this entire show this far. Hangman versus Moxley, Texas Death Match for the AEW World Championship. Marina Shafir, we still don't know her, in the corner. I'm going to say right now that I'm happy with the end result. But to get there, it was a slog. Because Jon Moxley maybe can wrestle, maybe he's forgotten how to wrestle, but he refuses to wrestle. And this was everything wrong with AEW. And I know what they were doing. The payoff wasn't the problem. But let's do all this sick stuff and everything. And in Texas Death, you don't need to have broken glass everywhere. You stupid motherfuckers, you just don't care. You don't need to have... like nails and boards with nails in it and barbed wire and stuff like that. You can just have chairs and tables and you can just beat each other up and make it a physical fight and have an actual Texas Death Match, or you can just do this garbage, which it is. It is garbage, and if you like this stuff, fine. I don't care, because it's not for me. Mox is bleeding instantly after being forked repeatedly. Hangman's then bleeding. A barbed wire chair. And then we get more bullshit. We just get stuff constantly happening and not benefiting. Yes, the crowd's booing, but it's the wrong kind of booing because they're like, again, we're seeing this again. And a bucket of broken glass. Marina Shafir, by the way, should be fired and, charged with crimes against pro wrestling. She is terrible at what she does. And Moxley can't or refuses to work. He has been the worst television personality they've had in the last year. That's including Chris Jericho. Because Chris Jericho, I can skip over some of his stuff. Moxley has just been incredibly ridiculous. And then Ospreay, by the way, shows up and he gets laid out with a chair and a stomp and stuff like that and whatever. After Marina gets put through a table because there's no coherency to this goddamn match. And then a suplex through 2 barbed wire boards because Moxley, once again, can't work a match. Oh, he's carried the title. It's genius stuff. He's making people earn it. It's not fucking genius storytelling because Moxley doesn't know about genius storytelling. He just wants to go do this stuff and be uncuffed and do this. And I liked when he showed up in AEW. But this Death Rider stuff has been the absolute pits. So, this will not end. Oh, look, we get more forearms and we get a choke. We get more weapons. We get barbed wire across the face. And then we get Wheeler Yuta showing up, that string bean son of a bitch. Oh, God. Have a parade for this pay-per-view and then send him in a convertible on a road in Dallas, and let's just see if history repeats itself. So, then here's... I'm just going to skip over some of this stuff. We get a bag, and the bag's going to go over his head, and oh boy. But then here... Suddenly we see footage of Mount Everest, and Darby vows to take everything from Mox after climbing to the top of the world, ma. And then suddenly Bryan Danielson shows up in a mask and just shows up in a mask and does this. Okay, so all that stuff about neck surgery, whatever. He takes out Yuta, takes out others. He didn't take out Yuta for real, so unfortunately I'm not allowed. I don't want Yuta to not be able to ever function in this world, but I don't want him to be able to function in the professional wrestling world. He's not a wrestler, and he is a big fucking... malaria is more tolerable than Wheeler Yuta. That's what he is. He is wrestling's malaria. And he deserves to have that said to his fucking face, by the way. Fans deserve to... They shower him and heckle him. Forget get a haircut. Anyway, then Darby descends from heaven and it takes him about 5 years because it's a fucking stadium. And then a coffin drop on everybody. A couple buckshots. And then the Deadeye through the table. But then Marina lifts him up and oh my God, it's all this. And then a board with nails in it because again, we can't be serious at any point. A stomp, a DDT. Hangman gets up. And then Marina has the key, but suddenly Nana's there, handcuffs her, which she ought to be used to cuffs. She ought to be cuffed to a goddamn wrestling promotion that she can drag down that isn't funded with endless money. And then, basically, she was going to get the key and unlock the briefcase. But then, Swerve shows up with a chain, takes out the Bucks, because the Bucks showed up during this thing, throws the chain at Hangman and says, yeah, we're cool. I terrorize your baby, you burn my house down, we're even. And then, which would be fine if we hadn't seen endless bullshit and all this stuff that isn't professional wrestling at this point. And then, chain punch, hit on the nail board, and then suddenly he's hanging Moxley in the, over the ropes, and Moxley taps out like the little bitch that he is. And there you go. And then Hangman gets a big pop. Woo! I'm glad that Hangman won. 35 goddamn minutes of this shit, bell to bell. And it was garbage, because all of this stuff is garbage. But Hangman won, so let's see you do something right, Khan. Let's see Moxley not be on television for the rest of the year. In fact, send all the Death Riders home and just keep Claudio. Get Claudio away from this shit. Pay everybody to stay at home. You got enough goddamn money to do that. And there you go. This 247-day reign that felt like it lasted about 5,000 years is finally over. I just hope that Moxley is never allowed near the main event scene again. He was a fucking goddamn just... Another example of wrestling's malaria. Anyway, that's it for All in Texas. What do you guys think? Long review. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritland. Until we meet again, happy trails to you.